Alright guys, welcome back to the channel and more early content for WWE 2K23, where today we're going to be going over all the updates to gameplay as we've got a full overview of the player HUD, the stamina system, paybacks and some brand new animations. Before we get into any of that though, if you're new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with all the latest news on WWE 2K23, then please do hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss out on future videos. So let's start out by going over the new HUD display. As while it does look similar to 2K22, some things have been switched around and there's also some new features that aren't initially apparent. Taking a closer look at the HUD, this is split into three main bars. We have the health bar at the top, the momentum bar in the middle, and then the finisher bar at the bottom, which is split into three different sections. Starting with the health bar, this remains largely the same as it has for several years now, with the meter starting out fully green and then depleting over time when taking damage till it eventually turns red and begins to empty. Comparing the new HUD to last year's HUD, the main difference visually is that the momentum and the finisher bars have switched places, as last year the momentum meter was split into three, while the finisher meter was a single bar. Moving on to the momentum meter, this one starts out empty and then gradually fills up as moves are performed. Once the momentum bar is full, then this will grant you a signature move, which upon using will empty the meter and award you with a finisher. Also tied to the momentum bar are paybacks, which are special abilities that you can choose on the selection screen, with these including options like Resiliency that allows you to kick out of pinfalls, low blows, comebacks and other special abilities. While paybacks aren't new to the game, 2K23 doubles the amount of paybacks that you can select, as rather than being limited to one payback, this year players can choose two. Despite having two paybacks available, only one of them will show up on the HUD, as only one payback can be active at a time, though you can manually switch between paybacks by pressing down on the D-pad. In order to use a payback, you'll first need to fill up the momentum bar. However, how far that you have to fill it will actually change depending on the amount of damage that you've received, as the momentum bar features a small white line that will slowly move from right to left as the match goes on, as this line represents the amount of the bar that you need to fill to use your payback. So for example, when the match starts, the white bar is near the top of the momentum meter, meaning you would have to fill the bar up to this point in order to use your payback. If we jump ahead to later in the match though, you'll notice that the white bar moves to the left as you receive damage. Therefore in this example, to use your payback you'll only need to fill the meter up to this point. The reason behind the change is to try and give players that are struggling an easier way to get back into the match, as rather than trying to fill the entire meter, they only need to fill a portion of it, so if they can get a few moves in and fill enough momentum, then it gives them a much better chance of getting back into the match. As well as being able to switch between paybacks using the D-pad, the game will automatically switch to your remaining payback once you use the first. Staying with paybacks and momentum, another returning feature is the quick recovery feature, as you'll notice several moments in matches where you're given the option to press RB for a quick recovery, which will see you jump up and get back to your feet. This option will only appear if you have enough momentum, as the trade-off for using the quick recovery option is that it will use up part of your built-up momentum. As for the finisher section of the HUD, this is split into three sections, with each section filling up as moves are performed, with each filled segment then representing a stored finisher. So that's the new HUD, but what about the gameplay itself? Well, this is something that you're either going to be really happy to hear or really disappointed, depending on how much you enjoyed the gameplay in 2K22. That's because the gameplay in 2K23 is almost identical to that of 22. What I mean by that is that all of the options from last year's game are still present, including combos, breakers, dodges, counters and the stun meter, with grapples still requiring players to lock up initially. The only change that I did note was the addition of a stamina meter, which comes into play when running or using strike attacks, as the blue stamina circle will begin to empty whenever these actions are performed. Once the stamina bar is completely empty, then this will cause your superstar to become visually tired, at which point they'll be unable to run and they'll move around a lot slower, with the walk animation showing them to be somewhat groggy. From the time I spent with the game, the stamina bar was one of the things that I didn't really like, as it was weird to have fast-paced gameplay that uses combos and strike attacks, only to then limit the player with the addition of stamina. What I will add though is that when the bar did empty, it did go on to regenerate pretty quickly, so it's probably not going to be that big of a deal, and I would imagine that it's something that you'll be able to customize in the slider options to determine how fast it'll refill. As for any other ways that stamina changes things, from the matches I played, I didn't notice any real changes other than the walking and the running animations, though most of the matches that I played were quite short, so there is the chance that there could be other elements tied to stamina, such as tired finishes, though from what I played, the only tired finisher I did see was Roman's spear, as using it with low stamina means he'll perform it with the tired run. As for new gameplay additions, one of the new features this year is the ability to taunt with weapons, as each weapon comes with 1 or 2 taunt animations that you can trigger using left and right on the D-pad. From the footage that I recorded, I got a few examples of the chair taunts, as steel chairs come with 2 animations, one that sees the player beating it against the mat, and then a second animation that shows them holding it back as if they're teasing an attack. In terms of the other weapons, Revolution sent me this footage that showcases some of the new animations for the kendo stick and the sledgehammer, so a big thank you to Elle. I'll leave a link to her channel in the description and a pinned comment, as she's got a bunch of footage covering all the women's content. Taking a look at the kendo stick, this one has 2 animations, one that sees the player hitting it against the mat in a similar manner to the chair, then we also have a second animation that sees the player swinging it around in their hand. As for the sledgehammer, only 1 taunt was shown for this, with this one seeing the player holding it over their shoulder as they goaded their opponent to come at them. Based on what I played, most of the weapons feature at least 1 if not 2 animations, with the animation that you get being random, though in future I hope this gets updated so that the left button uses 1 animation and the right button the other. Moving on, another big change that we need to talk about is the pin mechanic, as one thing the developers did change was the way that players kick out of a pinfall, as they've replaced the button bashing mechanic from 2K22 with a new timed option. The new timed kick-out mechanic sees players having to stop the cursor inside the green area, though making it more of a challenge, the green area itself will move from side to side. Also different is the button that you press to kick out, as the developers have switched the kick out button to the right trigger, which you now have to flick up to stop the cursor. The first time I kicked out of a pinfall, I actually pressed the regular kick out button rather than flicking up the right stick, and it still worked to stop the cursor, so it looks like you can use either the face button or the right stick to kick out. Having used the mechanic in several matches, I actually found it to be pretty easy to kick out, even after taking a finisher and having red health, as the area that you have to stop the cursor in was a lot bigger than I expected, though I imagine that this would be something that gets a lot harder the more the match goes on. Meanwhile, for players that preferred the button bashing minigame from 2K22, you'll be pleased to know that developers have confirmed that that will still be available in the options menu, as players will have the option to choose between the two. As for any other gameplay changes, the rest of them are primarily animation based, as there's a lot of new reversals in there, as well as some new kick out animations that see the player who attempted the pin becoming more and more frustrated. So to sum things up, gameplay wise, 2K23 is a lot like 2K22, though there are some new elements that are also mixed in. So that's an overview of this year's gameplay. I'd love to know what you make of it in the comments, as I enjoyed it with the exception of the stamina meter, even if it is very similar to 2K22. Anyway guys, that's it for this video, but stay tuned to the channel and make sure that you have your notifications turned on, as I'll have match gameplay coming up next. Until then though, thank you so much for watching this video, have yourself an awesome day, and I'll catch you later.